Hello and welcome. This is a quick introduction to the MCP Model Context Protocol. We have here one MCP server to demonstrate. What we are going to do is, in this MCP server, we are going to take the text input language for the SQL server, a natural text language, and we will be able to return the SQL server results in an intuitive way, generating the SQL automatically and returning the results. But before we get to the demonstration, let us quickly understand what the MCP server actually is. Basically, earlier we used to do RAG, retrieval augmented generation, to incorporate external knowledge into the LLMs. So let's suppose we had to do it without MCP or RAG earlier. So LLMs can help you generate the SQL language, but it does not know your data definition language. It does not know your tables, right? So you need to extend the knowledge of your existing LLM to be able to give you exact SQL statement. So that is what we call as integration. So MCP basically is the standardized way to do that integration. It's one good way. Although Google is developing another protocol A2A, but both are basically a lower overlapped in scope. Right now MCP is something very streamlined and most of the technologies are already adopting it. So MCP basically helps you integrate LLM with the external body for the sake of invoking actions mostly, but it can be used for the external information also. Like for example, in this demonstration, we have a SQL server where we have a MCP server on top of it to be able to query the SQL server in a natural language, and it is already doing the RAG also, so that you can query directly the tables using just the text only. So one question that might come to mind, why the traditional APIs are not sufficient? Because those are very streamlined. API gateways are there, reverse proxies are there. That's a very streamlined technology we have, along with the support from the cloud vendors like firewall support and everything. So the MCP is a very breaking change for them. Of course, it's a new basically data exchange protocol. So there are two reasons. First of all, we have to have a discovery mechanism. AI agent tools, they do not know the exact API format. They cannot, it's not easy for them to learn to do the calling. They have to have one standardized way through which they can learn which APIs are available. So for that, there is one standard way that MCP devised in a specific format whereby we can get to know which API calls are available. And invoking is also in a one standard way. That is how your AI agent basically can quickly learn what actions are available and what it can do with it and how can it invoke it. Contrary to the API, they are complex. They have to be a complete API documentation manual or a book to be able to invoke them. But this one is a simplistic one. And this is the only way AI agents can move forward to invoke action directly on your products and services. But this is powerful also. Imagine a WhatsApp MCP server, which is already, by the way, there from the third parties. So you just invoke your MCP server using your LLM prompt engineering and ask for the summary of the messages. And maybe you ask for example, what is the last time I got the last response from that person. So this is definitely a magic on top of what we already have. So in this example, we have a SQL server. So we'll extend the power of LLM so that it can ask natural text questions to our SQL database, and we get the answer from the database without knowing the SQL language. So by doing the MCP, we basically extend the power of LLM using the external knowledge. Another benefit or another need for having a separate protocol besides the APIs is the context. So imagine a multi-level conversation. For example, you already invoke one command and you get the SQL results, and you want to refine that command, and your second prompt only says, give me only the names that start from A. And definitely here you are referring to the results that are already written in your previous question. So definitely you are referring to the context, which is why if you see the name contains Model Context Protocol. The product context is very relevant. Compared to that, rest is stateless. It doesn't care what the last API call was. But in this case, it is very aware. The context is passed with every call, and it does know what the last call was, and it can possibly use that to its benefit. Because AI tools always, they work on the context. They always consider the last question that you ask or the last information that you provided, and based on that, it does the refinement of the results. So definitely, the traditional API, it cannot either do the discovery also, and it does not cater to any of the context. So the need is there definitely. So we'll jump to the demo. We have here many one minimal and simplistic MCP server. Basically, it's doing nothing. It is using one Azure AI instance where we have one app deployed and we have our model deployed here, where we are using GPT-4o mini, and we are going to just, it's a standard LLM only from the Azure, and we are going to invoke it and use it. Here we have a simple DDL for the SQLite. We are going to feed this DDL as a context. You see, we assigned this DDL as a context and we have passed it to the prompt, and besides the prompt we are passing it as a context to this question, right? So this is a minimalist, the implementation. So we are just asking the user the question in a standard way, in the way the MCP accepts request and response. So a basic inline SQL-like database is there, it's nothing, and the simple to users table is there, and sample data is there, and the simple call is there. The structure is just like the same REST API, it's just that the JSON request and response is there, discoverability is there. So we are going to invoke it. So here our server is going to listen on port 5000. We have our MCP server live now. So we have this, for example, give me SQL query for the users with most orders or least orders, and this is our test data, by the way. So if you see, for example, the user number 1, Alice, is having 2 orders, rest of them are having one order. So Alice is the one who's having the most orders. It could be any other query also. So because we already gave the pass the context also, so we are going to just create this request for the MCP server. Let's use another instance for the terminal for that, and here we are going to invoke it. So it's going to call that service, and here we get the example Alice, and it could be any other query also with, for example, least orders also, and it is going to generate the SQL on the fly, and it's going to give us one of the possible answers from the least also. So basically it just demonstrates the using of the RAG method, where basically RAG is also about making the vector embeddings and then making it part of the context so that the answers are very relevant. However, coming back to the MCP, definitely it's a very big change. Every new technology basically now, if you can see or if you observe in the industry, they are transforming their normal APIs. Besides the normal APIs, they are developing the MCP server also. Most of the technologies, GitHub is already having an MCP server, Slack is also there. So most of the technologies are converting themselves to be AI ready. So for that they need to have one MCP server, because only then your prompt engineering will become powerful, so that the agentic API AI can be able to invoke all the actions and get the knowledge from there dynamically. So this is a minimalist MCP server implementation to showcase the power of what's coming ahead in the industry and how it's going to transform the things. So you can expect definitely whatever product that you're developing, instead of the normal APIs, you need to have a context-aware model, context protocol implementation also. Security definitely is another thing, because definitely with the REST we used to have rate limiting, we had firewalls, and we had all those OAuth rules there, but now definitely this is a game changer for the security. So this is a new discussion going on basically, and authentication is another thing definitely, and this is a new discussion that is in place out there, and definitely it opens up new security questions, the loopholes, vulnerabilities, but that's for another podcast. Thank you very much.